On to refactoring the enemy. We've already done this once, should go a little bit faster. Obviously, if you don't already have this open, we're going to make sure we open the plain enemy class. Double check up here, if you haven't made the change already, that we have this reset the parent class here to BP_plain base. Remember, we can do that through the class settings and the dropdown just here. Same things again as with the player. We're going to delete the static mesh, which will give us a little bit of a problem here. We'll just say this is fine, so we'll click yes. This has dropped me straight down to where the problem is, and that is that we've bound the previous component hit function, that collision check, to the original static mesh. That's actually not a problem because we wanted to fix this anyway. We don't want to use the mesh as the collider. Instead, we're going to take the sphere component here, so we'll grab this one, and we want to do the same thing again. So in the right-hand side, in the details panel, we just drop this down, and we're going to find the onComponent hit function and create a binding to this. And that's all this is doing. It's just binding whenever an action occurs. It's binding this function to then be called. So we can delete this one, hook the same things up, so execution pin and actor pin, and that's the initial part of that problem solved. Then I'm just going to jump into the viewport quickly. We're going to grab the static mesh, and we want to make sure that we're updating the material. So again, in element 0 here, this is the one controlling the body of the plane. We'll drop this down, and we can now find the other material that you may have made for your enemy, which for me is just mi_plain enemy. Select that one, and we're pretty much back where we were. Same thing with the movement speed as well. We want to right click on this, find the references by the class member, just to make sure we get rid of all of these. We can double click on one of these and see where they're being used. We can see that we have a few of these to ensure that we don't actually miss any when we're trying to hook things back up. I'm just going to right click in the event graph down here, search for movement speed, and we're going to get the movement speed variable here, the one which was created in our parent class. Hook this in here, duplicate this, hook this down here, remove these just to tidy things up a little bit, and double click on the final one, which is over here. And again, we're just going to right click and search for movement speed. We're going to set the movement speed here, and then we'll plug this in. Get rid of that, and we are back to where we are. Now, there is an option which I didn't want to mention because I found it to be a little bit fiddly. In fact, on the current version, it just doesn't seem to work. But something that might be useful if they fix this in the future is that in the past, we've been able to right click on the variable. We can select here to replace references. What I'm missing at the moment, I don't know where this feature's gone. You can normally drop this down, and we could have found the movement speed variable created in the parent class. For whatever reason, I can only access variables from the actor and the pawn directly, not the actual BP_plain base, even though I should be able to. But just to say that for those reasons, we may just need to go through and do it the slightly more manual way that we've just done. With those removed, remember to get rid of the movement speed _0. We shouldn't be using that at all anymore. And then just hit compile to make sure that everything's gone through. Same with the player. Now that we have these in place, in the enemy class, we just wanted to double check. I've already taken this pass whilst we were doing the player content. If you decided not to jump into the enemy class and focused just on the plain player class, then just double check that you have the begin play parent call and the event tick override parent call as well. So we're going to right click on here. We're going to do the add call to parent function. And again, just make sure that we're hooking these up as we go. For the movement logic, we're going to do the same thing again. So we actually want the same movement logic to happen. We can grab all of this. Nothing's really going to change. We can grab these. So just shift select to grab these. We want to press Ctrl and X to cut all of the nodes out of here. We're going to go to override, and we'll override the handle movement function. After we do anything that might need to happen in the parent function, we're going to paste these here, and then make sure that our movement is called. With that done, that's just reminded me that we could also improve another thing over here. So we want to make sure that with our overlap that we were doing, we were previously just calling destroy actor and leaving a message here. We can bring in our handle death function, drop this in here, and replace that with the destroy function. So we'll get rid of destroy. We've got our handle death. What we may want to do is actually come in here. We will leave ourselves a comment. So this is taken, if we double click on this, that will take us into the plain base. So we're now in the parent class. We can pull from here. And something we're always going to want to do at the end is call the destroy actor. One thing that we might want to do, another use of comments, is it can make things easier to track things down. So if we press C to place a comment here, I like to leave myself these kind of to-do post-it notes almost. We can say something like implement the pre-death effect. So what happens before we destroy our actor? We're going to do that just here. This makes it really easy because you can press Ctrl and F in any class, and you can search for to do, double click on this, and wherever you are inside of your class, if you have a bunch of to-do comments left, you can quickly jump to them and see what you can work on. We can also come to the right-hand side. We can give this a different color just to make this stand out a little bit. Completely up to you how you wanted to handle this. But as I mentioned, it's just a nice way for me to quickly find the features that may not fully be ready to implement yet because we're not touching those parts of the system. But I know that I will need to come back here and do that at some point. So now when we come back to update this later, and again, this is how you should really be focusing on your workflow. This hasn't really done anything for us right now, But what this means is that when we do come back to add effects and things like that later, we don't need to come back and change our enemy code. This is now ready to go. We can keep developing around the entire project, and this will just automatically be accounted for when we've updated the features in here. The rest of the collision is still the same. This is still going to be pretty much what we need to do here. You could replace this with a comment, another to-do comment if you wanted to, but again, we haven't got to the health system, so we need something to remind us to come back here, and that print string is fine. We just want to double check that all of this is working, so we'll go back into play mode, make sure that the enemies and the player are still moving around as intended, and that's all pretty good. They're still bouncing off the walls, they're still taking their random direction, random speed, bouncing off each other, and we can again come back and change that depending on how we feel the game should play out. But I think with that done, we now have the parity of behavior, everything works as it did before, but making use of proper inheritance. So just a quick recap now that we've finished our refactor, moving over to using inheritance, find out what this has brought us. The core things are going to be that we have shared collision set up. We can configure that sphere once, and it will be working in both of the classes that make use of that. We have the shared death handling. So again, when we get to adding things like explosives, sounds, both of the classes will be able to use that. We can override the effect if needed, but we don't need to make any changes to our base code now. We have the shared movement logic toggle. So when we get to adding the animations, that movement enabled will be valid for cutscenes for both the player and the enemy. We've got the shared variables like the movement speed. It exists once, we don't have duplication or multiple versions of those across classes, and it might seem overkill at the moment for just these two different classes, but we're about to add things like health, projectiles, spawners, effects, and everything will now have a shared feature pool to pull from where things are relevant to make use of the same thing rather than duplicating it. One thing that did just come to mind is that we could make those sphere updates now. Like I've mentioned, the general kind of approach that people would take with this type of game is for the player, we want the sphere to maybe be a little bit smaller than what you would expect. So this might actually be fine. We could potentially increase the sphere radius a little bit. We can see at the moment it's actually inside of the body. It's so small, we wouldn't be able to see it. So projectiles are going to completely fly through the entire wingspan and most of the body. This, as I mentioned, is just to make the player feel like they're a little bit better than they are. If they think in their eyes that they saw a bullet just about missed them, but in fact it hit them, they're going to feel like they've dodged it. And what we don't want is for it to go the other way, where they feel like they should have dodged something, even though they clearly wouldn't have done, and they feel cheated by taking that extra damage in their mind. With the sphere selected though, we want to find this sphere radius here, and we can set this to something like 50, and you'll see where that comes into play. So now this is the area that the player would be taking damage. So maybe I'll just reduce that a little bit, so it's just purely the body, something like 45, and I think that's probably as much leeway as we want to give them. If we hit compile and then go back over to the enemy class, same thing, we're going to go into the viewport, grab the sphere, but I think this time what I might do is make this something like 64 or double it. And in fact, that might be maybe even that's a little bit too small. So let's make this something like 70. So again, it's just going to feel like the player will feel as though they're making their shots much better. That every time they take a shot, they're actually hitting the enemy exactly as they planned, where in fact they're going to be missing the body, but we're going to pick that up for them and make them just feel as though they're doing better at the game than they might be. Obviously, we want to balance this. We don't want to make it too easy, but you can see it's nice and easy to tweak these things anyway. So that's our inheritance set up. Both classes are working, both inherit from the plain base. Next, we can move on to adding the health and damage, and this will be where you really start seeing the benefits of taking this time ahead of the implementation to get inheritance set up. You can see much more of this in the Patreon exclusive project. All of the refactoring that we've done here has already been implemented in that project. Same kind of architecture, much larger, but you can see how multiple different enemies grow on that. Even the mini boss that's included, different types of weapons, projectiles, and things like that, which are all sharing these core elements in their code base. So if you wanted to see that and help support the channel to allow me to keep making content like this, do consider taking a look at the Patreon page, see what's available, and if there's anything that you might find useful.